जिन्हें पूज दुनिया, जिन्हें माने दुनिया, आंचल में जिनके हंसती है दुनिया, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी, खुशियों की भंडारी है सबसे न्यारी, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी। वो हंस के सुनाए, वो हंस के सुनाए, वो हंस के सुनाए, वो हंस के सुनाए बाबा की मुरली, वो खुशबू फैलाती भरती है झोली, जिनके आभास से खिले मन की क्यारी, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी, जिन्हें पूज दुनिया, जिन्हें मान दुनिया, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी। मधुबन की बहार है, आनंद की फुहार है, मुस्कानों से बातें खुशियाँ पार है, उनकी महिमा जग में न्यारी, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी, जिन्हें पूज दुनिया, जिन्हें मान दुनिया, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी, वो दादी हमारी, मीठी माँ हमारी।
Om Shanti and good evening to everyone, and a very warm welcome to Sister Manda. I always feel that, these days we say that good were the days that we had Dadis with us, but I still feel that good are these days that we still have seniors like Sister Manda who have been with Dadi and who has wealth of experience because they've been with Dadis day in, day out. So we're very fortunate to have her with us. Sister Manda is with Baba since late 70s. She took Gyan at a very young age, and she has been one of the service pillar in the UK. She's coordinating the services at the Oxford Retreat Center. And if I'm not wrong, Oxford Retreat Center was the first retreat center of the Yagya, and she has been an example for everyone in how to manage a retreat center. And the quality that I see in Sister Manda and Baba, but also she has her own style to explore Gyan. So yes, today we have Sister Manda with us, and today's topic is following the footsteps of the Dadis. And before I hand over to Sister Manda, we have a very short clip from one of the documentary and that she shared, and I felt it's a very touching experience that you have shared about Dadi Janki. So we would like to share that with you before we head into the class. Om Shanti.
It was also Dadi Janki who inspired the Brahma Kumaris to purchase in 1993 a unique property in Oxford. This would become a retreat center where thousands of people would come every year for spiritual renewal.
Yeah, I think I must have been 26, something like that.
Today, Manda Patel oversees the activities at the retreat center. Looking back at her life shows clearly how much it was her relationship with Dadi Janki that helped shape her destiny.
And by the time I was 21, I don't know, something just made me feel like I really need to think about what do I want. Do I really want to do this thing that, you know, everybody... There's a part of me that did want to get married and did want to be kind of, you know, have a happy life like that. But then there was a part of me that felt that there's got to be more to life than that. There's just got to be more. She really had an impact on me from the first moment I met her. And somehow the things she would say about me made me feel that I would know myself through her. And I think I'm not the only one that she's done that for. She's done that for a lot of people. And I think her speciality really is that she makes you feel seen. The moment you're in front of her is that there is nobody else that exists for her except you in that moment. She touches my heart where I feel no one else touches, in the sense that she makes me feel something deep inside me that comes to surface. And as I can genuinely say, I can't think of anybody else who makes me feel like that. She's the only one who can move me to tears, actually, I can say. Only one. There aren't many people that can move me to tears, just being in their presence. I can just be making that eye contact with her, and I could be, the Ganges start to flow, and here we go. Very high vision for people. When she saw the potential, she never let go of that, even when they didn't see it. I would be upset with her, or sometimes I would say something to her, I'd do something with her, and she would kind of, well, don't do that, or don't say that, or something, and then I'd say, well, fine, I'm not going to say that, don't ask me again. I did that with her a couple of times. And I have to say, she played different roles for me. She was a teacher, she was a friend. I could say things that I was having difficulty with, probably with her, more than I probably could with anybody else, because I kind of felt like she was always sympathetic, or she would understand, and she would say, look, don't worry about it. She would make me feel that even if you're going through difficult times right now, it's going to be okay. And she trusted me to go through it and come out the other side. Heavy.
Over to you, Sister Manda. I must say that's a very delicious dish.
They didn't ask me before showing that if it was okay to show it. But anyway, thank you. That feels like such a long time ago now. That that documentary about Dadi was made. It was in the days of Dadi, it was before COVID. Must be 5-6 years, Wadi? Is that how long? 5-6 years or longer possibly. So I hope that I've grown from what you see there and I'm not as I was at that time. So, Om Shanti, and hello, and lovely and a pleasure to be with you all, to explore this aspect of togetherness, following the footsteps of the Dadis. I am assuming that you all know how this topic of togetherness came along for the Double Foreigners program this year. When the team was meeting together, we were very aware that we're living in the times when the Brahmin family is becoming bigger and bigger, and there's a huge diversity in many ways. The fact that we come from so many different countries, cultures, backgrounds, that has been there since service began outside of India, and in India too, I suppose. But what is very clear, I feel, nowadays more than ever before, that Baba's children are also finding their own way of living and being in their Brahman life. And whilst externally it may not look like everybody else's, it may not look like how we should be or must be, so to speak, but it is very clear that once souls come to Baba, there is a huge amount of love for Baba and a commitment to a spiritual way of life, as well as commitment to truth and service, commitment to Baba's task. Just that it doesn't look like it might have looked like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that it's not the same as everybody else's. And my feeling also, though, is that in my generation, when we came to Baba, it was instantly, it's all or nothing, and we dived into this life. But as time is going on, and I'm seeing more and more that the young people that come these days particularly are really very balanced. They're not diving into it like the way I dived into it, probably. But they seem to have some natural kind of awareness of how to live a life of spirituality in the world, and also how to be with Baba and in Baba's task. And I find that quite admirable, to be honest. And it's important to acknowledge that the way in which people live their Brahmin life is different now. So it was this that made us really think about how it is that seeing this variety of ways of living Brahmin life, not just a spiritual life, but specifically Brahmin life, and also being together and being unity. We were conscious of not wanting to use the word unity because it has kind of old connotations, but one and together. So this is how the topic came along. And I'm seeing that various different places where retreats are happening for teachers or center coordinators are also taking up the same topic. So, and of course, who else better than to allow us to see what it means to be together than the Dadis themselves. So, since I came to Baba, I first took Gyan in 79, then actually made the decision to be a Brahmin in 81. And I came to Madhuban literally 2 or 3 months after I had started to go to class. So I was first time in Madhuban 82. And so I had the good fortune of meeting most of the Dadis that you saw. If you've been to Pandav Bhavan in the last few days, you saw all the cutouts of all the Dadis with their names. So I consider myself lucky to have met most of them. Probably just only 1 or 2 that I hadn't met. And of course, being in their company and their presence itself was incredibly powerful. I remember I had come the first time, and in those days there were flights, I suspect, coming from Delhi to Ahmedabad or wherever, but they were probably not so affordable. So we would come by train, and the train in those days, again, train from Delhi to Mount Abu Road took 17 or 18 hours. And I remember arriving covered in dust, literally covered in dust, dust in your eyes, dust in your nose, dust in your ears, everywhere. And we were a small group that came from the UK at that time. It was the month of February. And when we arrived, it was Dadi Janki, senior Didi Manmohini, and Dadi Prakashmani. Somehow, they too had arrived from somewhere. And we were told, come quick, the Dadis are meeting everyone, they've just arrived. So I remember being in the history hall. The 3 Dadis, it was Dadi Kumarka, Dadi Janki, and Didi. And so they were meeting everyone, saying hello to everyone, and just loads of love. And just instantly, my sense was that I had known them, I'd met them before. But the reason why I'm telling you this story is the funny thing that happened was that as we all came up to take Toli from each one, so I came up first to Dadi Kumarka, then Dadi Janki, and then it was Didi. And by the time I arrived in front of Didi, the Ganges were flowing, because it was just such overwhelming sense of feeling, of love and belonging. And because I was crying, tears were streaming down my face. And Didi took out her hanky and gave it to me. So I took the hanky and I wiped my tears and I gave the hanky back to her. And the hanky was covered in the dust that came out of my eyes and my face probably. And she so sweetly took it back. She didn't say keep it, but it was my innocence. But I never forget that moment where she took out her hanky and me, so naively, dirty hanky, giving back to her. And this is a real example, if you like, of this feeling of knowing and belonging and a sense of family and sisterly love. So when I talk about the Dadis now, I don't talk about it like I'm reminiscing. So today, when I talk about them, I don't want you to think of it as me reminiscing or reminding you of your moments and reminiscing. I would like it to feel that it would be more than reminiscing, that it would truly be us seeing them as a point of reference and resonating within us what it is that is the same. as it was in them. My feeling is that it is there. And especially when I'm in Madhuban or the family generally, I feel I have my own sanskars that are not necessarily very pleasant for other people, and I don't intentionally want to appear to be strong or angry or whatever, or forceful or whatever, and I suspect I do, and I'm pretty sure that I do. But I'm very aware that there is a lot of love for everyone, and I don't feel the separation, and I don't feel that I need to get to know someone for me to accept them or love them. And so my sense also is about the Dadis, that they created that feeling. Again, in the early days, I would come, because I had a job and I would be working, I would come around Christmas and January, so that you would take your holidays, Christmas holidays, and then take extra time of holidays to be in Madhuban. So I used to be around for 18th quite a lot in the early days, which I used to love a lot, because somehow Brahma Baba's presence was very, very powerful and apparent at that time. And the Dadis also would share their experience of Sakar Baba. Again, each year, the feeling that I would have is that these are my people. And when I say this, I don't think it's only me who had that feeling with the Dadis. Everyone who met the Dadis felt that these are my people. These are the people that I belong to. And so, what are the aspects that are most important in creating and feeling the sense of togetherness and oneness and unity? What I observed in the Dadis tremendously was that there was a huge, huge, huge amount of respect amongst themselves. Remember, it wasn't quite easy for them when Brahma Baba became Avyakt. There was Baba as the central figure that held everything and everyone together. And suddenly, Baba is not there. And then Baba assigned Dadi Prakashmani as the one who is kind of leading everybody. And their ability and their willingness to accept that here was Baba himself, instrument, the one who could take responsibility for everything and everyone and you completely. And now he's not there, and now it's one of them that in a sense is being given that position. And I suspect they had their differences. In fact, I did see they have their differences, and I will share about them in a minute too. They had their differences, but the fact that Baba made Dadi Prakashmani the instrument. Just think about it for a moment, listening to Murli through Sakar Baba directly and personally. And now, Dadi Prakashmani is going to read the Murlis that were spoken in the past. Dadi Janki has related a story about this, saying that she was kind of questioning that for herself, that now I've got to listen to someone else read the Murli. But she remembered that Baba is the one who is encouraging this. Baba is the one, it's Baba's Srimad, that Dadi Prakashmani should read the Murli. So she turned her mind instantly to what Baba said and honored Dadi in that role, in that position, and gave her that total and absolute respect for the role that she had been assigned by Baba directly. This is a big thing, when now amongst themselves, they're the ones who have to carry the mantle that Baba has given to them. You never, ever, ever witnessed conflict amongst the Dadis. And what was it that allowed them to not have that conflict? What was very central for them was that this is Baba's task. And we are Baba's children, all of us. You know, there are times when I've read Murli in Pandav Bhavan, Om Shanti Bhavan, and recently I read Murli in Diamond Hall in Shantivan also. And every time when I do read the Murli, I can't help but remember Dadi Prakashmani, because this is not a small thing to take this gaddi that the Dadis sat on. And I have to say, in my heart in that moment, I am carrying Dadi Prakashmani. And I can't help but remember that when Dadi Prakashmani came to read the Murli, it was never, I am the teacher, and I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to read you the Murli. Dadi Kumarka came with her wide open arms. This feeling that Dadi's arms are so big, she's embracing everyone that is in the room when she comes to read the Murli. And so, because her consciousness that this is Baba's Murli, these are God's versions, and I am simply an instrument to present them, to read them to everyone. And she would create Baba's presence. I think she created Baba's presence because of her own deep connection with Baba and her own love for Baba. I had said to her one time, Dadi, because you know the Dadis were completely different. Dadi Kumarka was completely different to Dadi Janki. Dadi Janki was completely different from Dadi Gulzar. They were all different from Dadi Manohar. Many of you may not have met Dadi Manohar. She was very famous for telling yagya stories. She was here, and then there's Dadi Ratan Moini. They are each one completely unique. They may have dressed the same, they may have looked the same, appeared the same, but they were not the same at all. And yet, they were in complete harmony with each other because of this awareness that we are all Baba's children, and that each one of us has a different and unique role. So their respect for each other was on that basis, this uniqueness that they all had. Again, Dadi Janki used to tell a story about this, that when they first went out on service, then it was Dadi Janki, Manohar Dadi, and Didi. They were together in Delhi. And Manohar Dadi used to say that, nope, you have to sit everyone in yoga first and then give them Gyan. And Dadi Janki would say, no, you have to give them Gyan first and then sit them in yoga. Completely different, right? Two opposite opinions. And yet, they managed to experiment with both of these to the point that they both changed their mind. And Dadi Manohar would then say, no, you have to give them Gyan first and then sit them in yoga. And Dadi Janki then started to, well, the other way around. So they did have difference of opinions. I remember being part of, well, loving argument is what I would say amongst the Dadis. And I still remember that moment. It was in Shantivan, in the days of Shantivan. And all the Dadis were there, the three Dadis, Dadi Ratan Moini, Manohar Dadi, a few Dadis were there together. And And they're having chit-chat about this, and Daddy Janki is saying, or one of the Dadis said, but Daddy, how is it going to be? When will we become karmatit and leave and do service in the karmatit stage? And Daddy Janki said, but no, Baba has said that you will become karmatit. You will stay here and do service. And Daddy Kumarka was absolutely adamant. She said, no, no, no. Baba has said that when you become karmatit, you will leave the body. And that's it. That's how it's going to be. So, different idea. And both were right, actually. I think that Avyakt Bapdada has said that you will become karmatit and you will stay here and you will do service. And Sakar Baba has also said that when you become karmatit, you will leave the body. You won't stay in this impure world. So there was very loving argument, if you like, taking place between the two of them. And yet it was filled with so much love, filled with so much sense of love. And I also feel that the Dadis, you never felt that we belonged to an organization when the Dadis were present. Because the Dadis created the family feeling. They were all sisters, they were all friends, and they were all service companions. They were all of those things. I also saw Daddy Kumarka once, something was happening in Delhi, and Daddy Gulzar was responsible, in charge of the Delhi zone, and things were not shifting or something, and Daddy Kumarka is saying to Daddy Gulzar, Gul, she used to call her Gul, Gulzar, short, Gul, Gul, do something. And so they were service companions, and when they were service companions, Daddy Kumarka was clearly the head of the organization. And whatever Daddy Kumarka said goes. It wasn't that, well, you know, I know, and I'm from Sakar Baba's days too, and I could do whatever I want. Never, never, never. So this is why, and this feeling of them being friends together, they would laugh and joke and tease each other. Didi was very good at teasing. And so they were also sisters and brothers. And you had this feeling of sisterly love, brotherly love. And I always think that, I don't know how it is nowadays, but I know that when I was growing up, and in my family, we are 3 sisters and 1 brother. And when we were children, we would fight, we would argue, we would kind of, you know, why are you doing this and why are you doing that? But the next minute, nothing. It was as if everything is okay again. We never held anything against each other. We never kind of that you did this to me 5 years ago and I'm never going to let go of this. I don't think that we were like that when we were young and children. And I have to be honest with you, I had never experienced that until I came into Brahmin life, where you do something or say something and somebody falls out with you and they don't speak to you for days and weeks. It was a very alien experience for me. Really, I was 21 by the time I came into Gyan, and I was 22 by the time I started to live in the center. And the first time I experienced this, I couldn't get my head around what was going on, where somebody's falling out with you because you've said something, you don't even know what you've said, you've done something, you don't even realize that you've done something to offend someone. And yet, so I think the key aspects of togetherness is that when I'm able to let go of this sense of you and me and I, then we can create the feeling of togetherness and oneness. And in a sense, you know, Baba's yajna is probably about the only place in the whole of the world where so many come together from diverse backgrounds, and yet we do have a feeling that we belong to one Baba and none other. When people come to our centers, why is it that they have always, whoever it is, whatever the event, whatever the program, people have the experience of our ability and our willingness to be available and giving and sharing with them. And yet I don't even think that we consciously think, I've got to share something. We just have the feeling that Baba's given us something, and we give what Baba has given to us. And that's it. So people outside that come to our places experience that. But we need to feel the same with each other and amongst ourselves too. So this incredible respect, this incredible love, this incredible sense of belonging to one, but also that the yajna, everything that the Dadis do is with the intention that this is for Baba's yajna. And for us also, the more we begin to create that sense of the yajna, so often we get asked to, what is the yajna? Because sometimes we can feel like nowadays that we're getting lost in the institutional rules and regulations. It's true, though, and none of us like those rules and regulations, and none of us like to kind of follow them. None of us like to implement them, let me say, too. As center coordinators or center residents, when we have to implement some of these things, don't think that we like it, but we have to do it because we've become too much of a big institutional body in the world outside. And so we have to be seen to be conforming and containing and living. But when I think about the yajna, and I feel this is what the Dadis represented and held, and each one of us now have to feel responsible for holding this. Not just the people who live in the center, not just the people who are in charge, but it has to be each one of us that hold the container of the sacredness of purity and truth. This sacredness and purity that creates benevolence, that inspires us to be benevolent with a generous heart. This is the yajna. You know, when in Bhakti they create a yajna, they create like a little square space in which they build the fire. So that container, that square container that they create is the yajna. And here now, when we create this container of sacredness, of purity, of service, of benevolence, it's this container is what we are a part of. This container is what we have to nurture and sustain. This container is the container that becomes such an intense environment in complete contrast to what is in the world outside, that this container becomes that which ignites the fire of transformation. And each one of us, I will say one more time, is responsible for creating this container. And we're seeing that more and more we have to move towards that. When the Dadis were there, we felt the Dadis created that and we could take. And we've been talking amongst ourselves whilst being in Madhuban now, that when is it that we are going to step up to that mindset in which we feel it's not that we're just here to take, but we're also here to give and to share what we have received from Baba and from the Dadis. I was asking the other day in another group how many have actually not met the Dadis. So can I ask here in this group, how many have not met the Dadis at all? Few, quite a few in that group, quite a few. Do you feel when you come to Madhuban still that you haven't met the Dadis? Or do we, all the rest of us who are here, manage to create the space that you feel the presence of the Dadis? I hope that you will feel this sense of belonging, this sense of togetherness when you're in Madhuban, but that when we go back to our places, this is what we have to create. The other thing that the Dadis were, they never looked at each other and criticized each other. It's unthinkable. They were all different, as I said. You know, Daddy Chandramani was amazing. Daddy Chandramani left the body quite early in the 90s, and she was a big personality, and she roared. When she laughed really loudly, and she roared with laughter. None of the other Dadis did that. And you felt the personality completely different to anybody else's. But yet the tremendous love, you know, Daddy Janki was very get up and go type of a person. Daddy Gulzar, very, very quiet, very, very silent. In the early days when I used to come to Madhuban, you never heard a word from Daddy Gulzar. The only time you saw her was when Baba was going to come. The only time you saw her was when she was going from her room to get her meal in the dining room, between those two spaces. She never gave classes in the days of Pandav Bhavan, but she was absolutely and totally present and available for Avyak Bapdada. Whereas Daddy Kumarka, she smiled and the sun came out every time you saw her. So they were all completely different, but they never looked at each other and thought, she shouldn't do that, she shouldn't be like that, she should be like that. Never, never, never. This is quite an amazing thing. And even if somebody is in the way that doesn't resonate with you, can I be with them in certain way, in such a way that I show them, they begin to realize and they begin to change, or the best of them come out in my company or in my presence, instead of me avoiding them because I don't like the way they are, don't want to engage, don't want to speak to them. You never saw Dadis do these things. Criticism, judgment of each other, never, never did they judge each other for being what they were. You only heard specialities. And I think what was most incredible was when they would give drishti to each other. When they came on the stage, they would share drishti with each other, and you felt the love that was there amongst them. And that inspired us to have love for them and also love for each other too. So the clock is moving very fast, so I want to stop here. But since we're going to have a little bit of reflection too, I'd want to offer you a couple of questions that if you could think about, just we could stop for a few minutes, and I hope those who are watching online can also join us. I know that this particular class is also being aired live to Baba's children from around the world. So 2 questions I have for you. One question is, the first question, what are the aspects you feel you bring, what are the qualities that you already have which you feel you bring to the Brahmin family? Let's say in your own places to begin with, in your own local center. Could you think about 3 qualities that you feel are unique to you, or is your contribution to creating the yajna, this sacred, pure, spiritual space in your center. Is the question clear? Is that okay? 3 qualities that you feel. If you have a piece of paper, you could write them down. And the way to ascertain those qualities would be, you feel happy when you share those qualities, whether it's in what you do or whether it's in how you interact with others. 3 qualities that you bring that creates this oneness, this togetherness, this unity. Others may have them too, but that doesn't mean that you don't have, you can't note those. Each one of us have many qualities. Sometimes we just don't stop to see. So let's take time, and perhaps hearing about the Dadis, you might resonate with something and feel, yeah, actually I do the same. And that's nice too. It's good. And I suppose these particular qualities specifically that bring the family together. Everybody got something? So the second question that I would ask is, what are the 3 qualities that you feel you could pay attention to, or you feel you need to bring into the family that you're not quite bringing just yet, that could help bring the family together more? So the first 3 that you already have, and the 3 that you could work on a little bit to bring togetherness in the family. You are drawn to them, you're attracted to them, but you just miss the mark a little bit. Something else comes up and becomes a little bit of an hindrance. Got them? If you haven't got them, perhaps even just to think about that after this evening. Because, I always remember Baba has said that it's not individuals that will reveal Baba. No matter how smart I am, how clever I am, how good I am, how much of a yogi I might think I am, individuals are not going to reveal God to the world. When Baba has also actually said, when you have one thought at one time, when you become one, that you will reveal God to the world. And ultimately, that's got to be our goal. When we are one as a unit, that's when we reveal God to the world. People will see us and these people have God. So whatever else I have that gets in the way of me feeling that I'm part of the family, I have to. In fact, it can be instant or it could be a long drawn out process. Okay, I'll stop here. If it's also a question and answer session. Does anybody have any question they'd like to ask? Apologies to those watching online that we can't take questions from you, but hopefully questions that people ask will answer your questions too. No questions? Are you shy?
Om Shanti.
Hello.
Hi. So my question, I was just remembering something that Gentleman had said before COVID, actually. And I can't remember what I asked her, but she said there are two things that are happening. In the world, all the systems that we have known are breaking down, which we have seen. But the other thing that she said is that what you're also observing is the upheaval of sanskaras within the Brahmin family, because things that we hadn't resolved before, after many, many, many years, they're all kind of coming up. So my question is, how to really not get caught up in that, because it's happening quite a lot. Your own stuff is coming up, and then you're projecting, and their stuff is coming up. And so sometimes you can almost get trapped in that. So the question is how to really, put a full stop and really keep our focus on the destination, which is to reveal Baba collectively, which is why we're all here, I think. So that's the question.
How? That used to say, don't ask how, just do it. So, but I suppose what comes to my mind for my own self, and this is the journey that I've been on, because having been involved in service and being part of the family for a very long time, I've been through a phase where I felt that I was so caught up in service and didn't do my own inner work that I should have done, ought to have done. But I feel that more and more as time goes on, I need to simply stay focused on my own self. So many turmoils, so many merging of sanskars happen around me, but to what extent I can stay focused inside my own self, in my connection with Baba, so that I can contain my own sanskars and not allow myself to be influenced by other people or even make them emerge their sanskars. And so for me, it very much is about staying introspective about your own self and separate the sanskars from the vision that Baba has given to me about myself. And it's a constant, moment by moment attention. It's not just something that, oh yeah, I know it and I'm doing it or I'll do it. Every moment I have to remember and bring that awareness of who I am and what I am, and keep those nasty sanskars at bay. And this tendency, yesterday I was with Pandit Bhavan, actually class for the Sevadaris, and I was sharing about how every feeling that we have, the feeling is not just separate from the body. And so every experience and feeling that we have, that I have, is also transforms into an energy in my own physical body too. And so every time I have a positive experience, a good experience, an experience of joy or beauty or truth, I have to reaffirm that experience again and again, so that it becomes a vibration and energy inside my own self, my physical body too, as well as my mind and my heart. So that I can tap into that experience whenever and as much as I want to. So I feel it's about creating positive experiences and powerful experiences that tend to give me power and energy than the other stuff that keeps emerging. Is that okay? Jos?
It's on?
Now it is.
Thoughts come in early days, my early days, in the 80s, when we from Holland came many times to London, and we saw you and Suman, Gita, Gopi, Kanan, all of you were in the office, and we were all very young. And what really touched me already in those days was the playfulness of the group of Shaktis, young Shaktis. And somehow you kept that youngness and that playfulness. And that secret, that joy that I've seen all over the years with you and the names I just named, I called. Actually, and you were all close. We've seen that. And now we see you and all these sisters play wonderful roles. And what I feel now is that the Dadis are not here. And through that lightness and that joy, the Dadis are beautifully revealed.
Thank you, Jos. That's a nice confirmation, because we think that we're not there. We feel that we need to do so much more to bring to everyone what, well, I should speak for myself, not we. I feel that I could do much more to bring what the Dadis had given to me, because I still find myself in a place where I think, oh, I got to do this for myself, I got to do this for myself, I need this and I need that. I mean, in terms of my spiritual effort and my spiritual endeavor, not anything else. And so in that process, I kind of might feel that I'm not sharing what I could share. But it's nice, and it's true, we've seen you in Oxford since the 90s, since the early days. So thank you for that confirmation. It's good to see that, good to know that.
And before Oxford, it was London.
Yeah, that's right. It was London before then. Anyone else want to say anything? There's lots of other people here who have experienced the Dadis, Sister Waddy's here, Belinda, Sam, Raju, Catherine. I'm seeing so many here that have experienced. So you could share something if you wanted to too. Any one of you? Here, Belinda.
Manda Ben, actually, mine's a question, and it's about influence. And it's something I see in myself. What quality should we perhaps be practicing that can free us from the influence of others? And maybe is there a particular weakness that is allowing that influence to happen?
Interesting question, but I think of influence as many spectrums of influence, and our obvious, and I don't know which one you mean, our obvious seems to be that influence of attraction, if you like, where you're drawn to something and then you become affected. And in this regard particularly, I'm remembering Dadi again. Dadi used to say to me, don't be influenced by anyone. Don't be influenced by anyone. And I'm sure she knew exactly what she was talking about. And I didn't know what she was talking about. She used to just say that to me. And I thought she meant this, that I'm saying that, you kind of think that somebody is better than you or good, and you tend to become influenced. But actually, then what happened was that after some time, a particular individual was no longer around. And when this person wasn't around, I felt a sense of relief. And in that relief, I began to realize that what I was doing was that I was influenced by that person, not in the way I thought influenced, but I realized that I was constantly concerned about how that person was going to react. That if I do something or make a certain decision, they're going to react and they're going to create an upheaval. So I would be very cautious about how I might take a decision about something. And I realized this, and I think this is what Dadi was meaning. Don't be influenced by someone. And I realized this after, when that person was no longer there, and I felt this relief of that person not being around and me not worrying about the influence, worrying about the influences in decisions that I might take. So I think that so that's just one example of the type of influence. But of course, there's influence of attraction, influence of repulsion, there's influence of all sorts. And I suppose it's being able to, again, this aspect of having the intention of being true to yourself and to Baba. Something that I remember again, because of my connection with Dadi Janki, particularly early days, Dadi had said, always remember, how am I living my Brahmin life? Am I living my life in the way that Baba wants me to live it? Or is Baba letting me live my life the way I want to live it? That's a big one. Get that? Am I living the way Baba wants me to live it, or is Baba letting me live the way I want to live it? This is a very interesting thing to consider. And so I think that kind of made me feel from the beginning, I want to be honest and true to myself and to my journey. And I think that if I have that intention of wanting to be honest and true, then I will catch the influences as well before they go too far, before I'm too caught up in them and don't even see that I'm influenced. That's my sense. Okay, anyone else before we finish? Last question or thought? Okay, Sudesh Didi is here and she's going to share with us a little bit about something, and then, well,